quedan unos minutos para que el reloj marque las 10, las 9 en Canarias y recibimos a esta hora, es semana Powell, es semana de bancos centrales, también vamos a tener Banco de Inglaterra, Banco de Japón, aunque el protagonismo es de Powell en plena resaca por Lagarde. Kevin Thozet, miembro del Comité de Inversiones de Carmignac. Kevin, good morning, muy buenos días.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Buenos días.
In this end of the year, central banks are the protagonists, and tomorrow the turn is the Powell. What do you expect about this message?
Yes, well, clearly this week is a major central bank week. We have at least 4 or 5 central bank meetings in the developed world, and the same amount of central bank meeting in so-called emerging markets as well. Tomorrow, I think most eyes will clearly be on Mr. Powell and on the Federal Reserve. What we expect for tomorrow is a 50 basis points cut. Indeed, the US economy is holding relatively well for now. There are all eyes on expectations of what Mr. Trump may be doing after the 20th of January. So once the inauguration has been done, with all those potential for more inflationary and reflationary measures put in place by the new Trump administration. But for now, it's probably a bit early for the Federal Reserve to guesstimate. So basically to do something between assumption, guess, and estimation, and hence to put its cutting cycle on pause. So what we expect for tomorrow, it's a 25 basis points cut.
25 points was the decision that we saw the last week in the ECB. Lagarde followed the script and cut rates, although now no longer speaks of the need for restrictive rates. What is your point of view about the ECB's performance, and what do you expect for future meeting?
Yes, so I mean, the Federal Reserve, it's probably a bit early for the Federal Reserve to take a hawkish turn. It might happen during the first quarter of 2025. For the European Central Bank to take a dovish turn, Mrs. Lagarde says it's still a bit early. And in fact, what Mrs. Lagarde and other members of the European Central Bank or other central bank person in Frankfurt think is that in fact we will have 25 basis points on a step-by-step basis, meeting by meeting, as they say, until we reach a neutral point, which is around 2%. And this seems to be kind of the thinking of Mrs. Lagarde, and even of the most hawkish, I would say, members of the European Central Bank. We had Mr. Wunsch, for instance, who yesterday said that he was comfortable with the market pricing for easing. What does this tell us? It tells us that for now, the European Central Bank and Mrs. Lagarde thinks that, in fact, the inflation path is on its way and that she's not too worried on the growth front. Our own expectations is that, in fact, let's say, neutral rates, so where the policy rates of the European Central Bank may end, is probably lower than what is expected today, around 175, 185 basis points. We think that policy rates in the euro area can go as low as 1.5 or even lower should the growth environment worsen. Again, for now, it's probably a bit early for the European Central Bank to do as Mr. Powell, so to guess what will be the impact of the Trump policy. Will we see some tariffs implemented? Will we see kind of a tit for tat? So, one-for-one response by European authorities. So for now, they are sticking to their scenario. So that's one element. The second element, and I think it's also potentially a hawkish element as well, is that it's already the case, the European Central Bank will stop reinvesting part of its extraordinary programs. What I mean by this is that the European Central Bank now is on the full quantitative tightening. It's no longer reinvesting the proceeds of those bonds the European Central Bank has been buying. And this is happening at the time where we will see, again, record issuances in the euro area. We have heard Portugal will increase the supply of bond compared to last year. France, we don't know because we don't have a budget yet, because we don't have a government yet, but we will likely see as well very significant issuance in terms of government bond yields.
Kevin, The ECB's mandate revolves around inflation, but do you think it could be further impacted by economic weakness in the Eurozone and the next administration Trump?
Yes, I mean the European Central Bank mandate is inflation, but Mr. Draghi, if maybe he failed on or didn't succeed in bringing or spurring back inflation, he did succeed in maintaining the euro area and the euro area together. So clearly, the mandate of the European Central Bank is inflation, but should it be required, it can extend its mandate. It has implication. The first one is that because it only has an inflation mandate, the risk is that the European Central Bank is always too hawkish. And that's what we're seeing now. And as I was saying before, it's kind of, we have had some form of a hawkish interest rate cuts last week, because it's largely focused only on price stability more than on the jobs markets. So that's one element. Clearly, what we expect for 2025 is this, because in fact it will not be governments which will be kind of helping economic growth in the euro area because of the Brussels-induced restrictive measures. France will be spending less, theoretically. Italy will be spending less, that's for sure. Belgium will be spending less as well. This means that the heavy lifting, the support to economic growth in the euro area will have to be coming from the European Central Bank. And hence, we were likely to see kind of a steeper or more accelerated cutting path for the European Central Bank in 2025.
Kevin Thozet from Carmignac. It has been a pleasure. Thank you for being in Negocios TV. Good day, good business, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much.
Y nosotros terminamos.